Welcome, dear friends, to TERAFLORA Studio, a place where imagination grows quietly beside the flowers and forgotten objects find a second life in the garden. Here, every idea begins with a simple practice. Observe, imitate, and then gently transform. What was once ordinary, an old shoe, a broken plate, a discarded jar, can bloom again, becoming a part of your own story outdoors. This series is more than a guide. It is an invitation to see beauty in what we often overlook. The rusty can, the cracked frame, the faded cloth, each holds a secret potential. With a little care, they can turn into lanterns, planters, pathways, or even whimsical corners that feel alive with poetry. As autumn paints the world in golden light, we walk together through designs that are both practical and magical, showing you that the garden does not ask for perfection. It asks only for presence, patience, and the willingness to create. It is important to say clearly and openly that this content has been created with the help of AI. Every word you hear is shaped to inspire, to calm, and to guide, but it remains a work of thoughtful design, blending technology with creativity. We hope this honesty makes your time here feel even more genuine. So as you listen, let the pace slow, let your mind rest. Imagine the colors, the textures, the soft breeze that might touch these creations once they are real in your own garden. And if this journey brings you a little joy or a spark of inspiration, we invite you, gently and warmly, to subscribe. With each subscription, you join us in keeping this dream alive, nurturing not only gardens but also the spirit of renewal and care. Together, let's turn the ordinary into wonder. There is something quietly magical about a path. Every step feels like a story, a journey waiting to unfold. And when that path carries a touch of color, crafted from the simplest of things, it becomes more than a walkway. It becomes a memory woven into the garden. Imagine stepping into your yard and being greeted not just by flowers and leaves, but by playful sparks of color nestled between the stones. These accents are nothing more than bottle caps, once forgotten and tossed aside. Yet with a little imagination, they transform into tiny jewels of the earth. Painted in shades of red, green, yellow, and blue, they catch the light like mosaic fragments, guiding your footsteps with cheer. The stones themselves remain steady and grounding, but the bottle caps dance, each one carrying a reminder that beauty often lives in the details we almost overlook. Creating this is simpler than you might think. Begin with a pathway of stepping stones or flat rocks. Collect bottle caps of different sizes and colors, and if you wish, give them a coat of outdoor paint for brightness that won't fade with the weather. Press them gently into the soil or secure them with a dab of concrete, arranging them in spirals, flowers, or simple playful dots. Suddenly, what was once waste becomes art beneath your feet. As autumn sunlight spills across the path, the bottle caps glimmer softly. Chrysanthemums in russet and gold rise nearby, while marigolds shine like drops of sunlight. Fallen leaves scatter naturally, blending with the colors in a harmony that feels effortless. Children may pause to trace the patterns with curious fingers, while adults smile at the cleverness of such a small yet joyful touch. The charm of this idea lies not in grand gestures, but in intimacy. Every step you take on the path becomes a reminder that transformation can be as simple as seeing treasure where others saw trash. And in those small, colorful circles, you will find a story that lingers, of care, of play, of turning the ordinary into something unforgettable. In the end, the pathway is not just a route through the garden. It is a celebration of creativity, of resourcefulness, and of the warm, playful spirit of autumn. In the quiet corner of a garden, water has a way of drawing us in. It reflects the sky, softens the air, and adds a gentle rhythm to the landscape. And yet, you don't need a grand fountain or elaborate pond to capture that magic. Sometimes a simple plastic bucket, one you might have thought too ordinary to notice, can hold an entire world of wonder. Picture a humble bucket, painted in soft shades of blue or green, tucked partly into the soil so that its edges vanish beneath moss and smooth river stones. With a few simple touches, it transforms from a forgotten object into a mirror of autumn's beauty. Floating marigolds drift lazily on the water's surface, their golden petals catching the sunlight like tiny lanterns. A chrysanthemum bloom, fiery and full, drops a single petal that ripples outward, reminding you that even the smallest moments can feel alive. Creating such a pond requires little more than imagination and patience. Begin with any sturdy bucket, plastic, tin, or even a wide basin. Paint it to match your garden's palette or leave it plain for a rustic charm. Bury it halfway into the ground. Then line the rim with stones, moss, or small plants to disguise its edges. Fill it with water, add a floating flower or two, and perhaps place a tiny figurine at the edge. Suddenly, you have crafted a sanctuary that feels at once simple and magical. The beauty of water in the garden is not only what it reflects, but what it attracts. Birds come to sip and rest, butterflies hover at the edge, and children pause in awe at the miniature world they discover within it. As autumn deepens, fallen leaves may drift onto the surface, adding their golden tones to the soft reflection of sky and flower. Each ripple tells a story of the season passing, of change welcomed with grace. What makes this pond special is not size or extravagance. It is intimacy. It asks you to slow down, to notice how water can hold light, how stillness can invite life. And each time you walk by, you'll find something new, a reflection, a petal, a bird, waiting quietly in its embrace. This is the gift of upcycling, that something as plain as a bucket can become a small universe of beauty. As evening settles across the garden, light takes on a different kind of voice. It softens, it whispers, it invites you closer. And what better way to capture this quiet magic than with lanterns made not from costly fixtures, but from the simplest of glass jars, jars that once held pickles, preserves, or jams, now glowing like fireflies caught in twilight. Picture them suspended from branches, each one wrapped in twine or wire, gently swaying in the breeze. Inside, a small tea light flickers, its glow magnified by the glass. As the shadows of dusk stretch long across the grass, these jars awaken, scattering warmth across marigolds and chrysanthemums blooming below. The flowers seem to lean toward the light, their golden and russet petals reflecting back the glow, as though nature herself is part of the design. The beauty lies not in perfection, but in the rustic simplicity. The jars, perhaps a little scratched or clouded with age, carry their history into this new role. Their imperfections become part of the charm. And with nothing more than a candle, a string, and a place to hang, they are transformed into lanterns that turn the garden into a storybook scene. To create your own, gather whatever jars you have at hand, mason jars, pasta jars, even old spice containers. Wash them clean, add a touch of paint if you like, or leave them plain to let the candlelight shine through clearly. Wrap the rims with twine, wire, or ribbon, creating a loop to hang them. Inside, place small candles or battery-powered lights for safety. Then let them dangle from branches, pergolas, or hooks around your garden. The effect is immediate and intimate. Guests pause, charmed by the way shadows dance across the ground. Children gaze upward, their eyes wide as though seeing stars brought down from the sky. And you, too, will find yourself lingering a little longer in the garden, listening to the silence made softer by the presence of gentle light. These lanterns do more than illuminate. They remind us that beauty is often found in the humblest of vessels. that warmth can be carried in something once destined for the recycling bin, and that the simple glow of a candle in glass can turn darkness into poetry. In the stillness of autumn nights, each lantern is a quiet promise that light, however small, has the power to transform. Sometimes, the most ordinary vessels hold the greatest charm. Picture an old milk can, its surface dulled with time, its handles worn smooth from years of use. Once, it carried nourishment from farm to table. Today, with a little imagination, it carries something else. The joy of flowers blooming in a second life. In autumn's golden light, these cans find their new rhythm. Painted in soft pastels, rustic reds, or cheerful yellows, they stand proudly along pathways and garden steps. From their wide mouths burst cascades of chrysanthemums in fiery orange, marigolds glowing gold like drops of sunlight, and sedum draping in gentle clusters of pink. The sturdy metal, strong and unyielding, contrasts beautifully with the softness of the blooms, creating a harmony that feels both playful and timeless. The transformation is simple yet striking. Begin with any old can you can find, whether at a flea market, a barn, or perhaps forgotten in a corner of your shed. Clean it thoroughly, give it a coat of weather-resistant paint, and let your creativity guide the colors and patterns. Drill a few holes in the bottom for drainage, then fill it with soil rich enough to cradle your chosen flowers. Within days, the can, once silent and still, sings again with life. There is something deeply nostalgic about these planters. Adults smile, recalling the days when milk was carried in such vessels, while children run their hands across the painted surfaces, curious about the stories these objects once held. The flowers add their voices too, spilling over the edges as if eager to show how joy can blossom anywhere. Placed along a wooden fence, on garden stairs, or even in clusters by the entrance, the cans become more than containers. They become storytellers, quiet testaments to renewal, to the belief that nothing is ever truly finished. Every brushstroke of paint, every bloom rising from the soil, carries the message that beauty often hides in what we are tempted to discard. As autumn deepens, fallen leaves gather at their base, adding a rustic frame to the display. The milk cans stand as guardians of warmth, holding color against the cooling air. And in their transformation, they remind us of a truth as old as the season itself, that endings are only beginnings in disguise. At the entrance to a garden, there should always be a sense of welcome. A threshold that whispers, you are leaving the ordinary behind and stepping into something magical. For many, that invitation comes in the form of a gate or a trellis. But here, it takes shape in an archway woven from bottles and wire, humble materials reborn as a doorway to wonder. Picture it standing proudly, its curve glimmering with bottles painted in shades of mint, rose, and cream. The sunlight filters through them, scattering soft colors onto the ground like fragments of stained glass. Ivy winds its way upward, while climbing blooms stretch across the frame, blending the man-made with the natural. Beneath the arch, the path is sprinkled with fallen leaves, each step carrying the quiet promise of discovery. The beauty of such an archway lies in its simplicity. Begin with a sturdy wire frame or bend recycled metal rods into a curve. Thread bottles, plastic or glass, onto the structure, mixing painted ones with clear to create variety. Secure them carefully, then let vines, ivy, or climbing roses grow to soften the edges. The result is not a grand gateway but a playful one. An arch that feels as though it belongs in both a fairy tale and a backyard. When visitors pass beneath it, they cannot help but pause. Children run through, laughing, imagining they are entering another world. Adults linger, tracing the way light bends through the bottles, charmed by the quiet poetry of its form. It is a reminder that magic need not be bought. It can be built with what others considered waste. the archway becomes more than a structure. It becomes a story, a tale told in colors, in textures, in the laughter of those who walk beneath it. It frames the garden not only physically but emotionally, marking the space as one where imagination and nature intertwine. As autumn deepens, chrysanthemums blaze in clusters nearby, marigolds glow in golden fire, and the archway stands as a witness to the season's abundance. It tells every passerby that beauty is not limited to grand designs. It can rise from bottles, wire, and a vision of possibility. Here, even a doorway built from discards can lead to enchantment. Every garden path tells a story. Some speak through the crunch of gravel, others through the firmness of stone. But when those stones carry mosaics of broken plates, they whisper of transformation, the beauty of fragments made whole again. Imagine stepping into your yard and glancing down at a path that gleams with unexpected color. Pieces of old ceramic plates, once chipped and cast aside, now lie embedded in stepping stones. Blues as soft as the sky, yellows that glow like captured sunlight, floral patterns that recall long-forgotten meals. All of them come together in a design that feels both playful and profound. Each shard, broken in its own way, joins the others to create something lasting. The process is a joy of both craft and care. Begin with plain stepping stones or pour a simple batch of cement into molds. Press pieces of broken plate into the surface before it fully sets, arranging them into spirals, flowers, or random bursts of color. When the cement hardens, brush off the dust and admire how imperfection has taken on new life. With every stone you place along the path, you are piecing together a memory, not just of what the plates once were, but of what they have become. As autumn sunlight spills across the garden, the mosaics shimmer. Moss begins to curl softly along the edges, framing each stone in a natural border of green. Fallen leaves settle against the colors, their golden tones blending seamlessly with the patterns. Chrysanthemums blaze in fiery clusters to one side, marigolds beam like suns on the other, and asters nod in gentle violet approval. Each step becomes not only a way forward but an invitation to slow down and notice. Visitors pause to trace the designs with their eyes, charmed by the thought that brokenness could be transformed so beautifully. Children crouch down to feel the textures, fascinated by the way each piece glimmers in the light. And you, walking along, feel the quiet reminder that what is fractured need not be discarded. It can still carry joy. These mosaic stones remind us that a garden is more than flowers and soil. It is also a gallery, a place where memory and imagination find their home. And in the broken plates beneath your feet lies the most enduring truth of all. Beauty is not in flawlessness, but in renewal. In the heart of a garden, a table is more than just furniture. It is a gathering place, a surface that holds cups of tea, books, and conversations that linger like soft breezes. But when that surface is covered in bottle caps, arranged into a mosaic of color, the table becomes something else entirely. A celebration of play, memory, and imagination. Picture a plain wooden table, once weathered and ordinary, now gleaming beneath the autumn sun. Its surface has been transformed into a jewel box of colors. Bottle caps, painted and arranged with care, form flowers, stars, and spirals that mirror the blooms rising nearby. Reds echo the fiery chrysanthemums, yellows beam alongside marigolds, and greens hum softly like moss at the soil's edge. The table does not boast of perfection. It sings of joy. Creating such a piece is easier than it looks. Gather bottle caps of all sizes, saved from bottles of soda, juice, or sparkling water. Wash them clean and give them a coat of paint, choosing colors that resonate with the season. Using strong adhesive, press them onto the tabletop in patterns of your choice. Once finished, seal the surface with a clear waterproof coating, protecting both the art and the memories it carries. Suddenly, the table is no longer a background object, but the heart of the garden's design. Children are drawn to it immediately. Their fingers trace the shapes, marveling at the way everyday objects have become something so alive. Adults smile, remembering bottles once enjoyed, now reborn into a story of creativity. Guests linger a little longer, drawn into the cheerful patterns that seem to glow brighter with each glance. And when you sit down with a cup of tea or coffee, the table seems to join the conversation. Its colors reflect the warmth of autumn around you. The golden petals, the russet leaves, the violet asters nodding nearby. Even in quiet moments, when no one else is near, the table whispers of possibility. That nothing is too small, too simple, or too ordinary to become beautiful again. This mosaic table is not only a surface to rest upon. It is an invitation to gather, to create, to remember, to see the overlooked and give it new life. And in the soft glow of the season, it reminds us that joy, like beauty, is built from fragments brought together with care. Sometimes a garden feels larger than the space it fills, not because of its size, but because of the imagination it awakens. And nothing captures this feeling more than windows standing where no walls exist. Frames rescued from attics or sheds, given a second life as fairy windows in the garden. Picture a row of old wooden frames, their edges brushed with soft pastel paint. Lavender, mint, and cream. They lean gently against ivy-clad fences or rise proudly from garden beds. There is no glass to hold them, no rooms behind them. Only air, light, and imagination. Yet they open into something more than a view. They open into wonder. Around their base, chrysanthemums burst in fiery orange and russet, spilling like embers at the foot of each frame. Marigolds beam golden smiles in the sunlight, while asters add violet stars to soften the scene. Japanese anemones, pale and graceful, brush their blossoms against the wood as if to bless this transformation. Fallen leaves drift lazily across the soil, weaving the frames into autumn's tapestry. The making of such windows is as simple as it is profound. Find an old frame, perhaps chipped, perhaps weathered. Sand it lightly, then paint it in colors that match the garden's mood. Stretch lace or fabric across the opening, or leave it empty for the sky to fill. Place it where flowers bloom most brightly, or against a fence where ivy climbs, and let it stand as a doorway not into a house, but into imagination itself. Children are always the first to notice. They peer through, laughing, convinced that if they look long enough, they might glimpse another world. Adults smile too, not at what lies beyond, but at the charm of seeing the familiar made new. The frames carry no glass, yet they reflect something more enduring, the idea that beauty does not always need function to exist. As the afternoon light softens, the windows seem to glow with quiet presence. They frame not streets or rooftops, but blossoms, shadows, and sky. They remind us that in the garden, reality and dream can touch, that even the simplest relics, forgotten for years, can open into something extraordinary. Here, a window is no longer a boundary. It is a bridge to wonder, to memory, to the playful heart of autumn itself. In the garden, broken things often find a second life, and few transformations feel as playful as turning an old umbrella, something once meant to guard against storms, into a vessel overflowing with blossoms. When placed upside down, its ribs cradling soil and flowers, it no longer shelters from rain. Instead, it carries the colors of autumn itself. Imagine wandering into a corner of the yard where an umbrella blooms. Its canopy, once faded by weather, is now painted in gentle pastels, perhaps a soft mint or a rustic cream. From its curved frame spill chrysanthemums in fiery orange, marigolds glowing like tiny suns, and asters shimmering violet. The flowers tumble over the edges, cascading like waterfalls of color, their weight held gracefully by the umbrella's outstretched ribs. The process is delightfully simple. Take a broken or unwanted umbrella and secure it upside down, either by attaching it to a stand or planting the handle firmly into the ground. Line the inside with fabric or a plastic liner to hold soil, then fill it with rich earth and your favorite blooms. Over time, the flowers will spill naturally, creating the illusion that the umbrella itself has blossomed. Children often laugh at the sight, pointing with wonder at a garden object turned upside down. Adults pause with quiet smiles, charmed by the humor and creativity. Even in silence, the umbrella seems to carry a story, that what once shielded against storms can now carry beauty into sunlight. Around its base, autumn leaves gather in golden layers, blending with the petals above. Ivy may creep up the handle, while moss settles gently at the rim. A nearby bench invites you to linger, to admire the playful transformation. And as the season deepens, the umbrella becomes a symbol not of brokenness, but of renewal, proof that even objects long dismissed can bloom again with a little imagination. At dusk, the flowers glow softly in the fading light, their colors deepening into rich tones of rust and amber. The umbrella, once forgotten, now holds the spirit of celebration, its open form a gesture of joy. Here, upcycling is not only practical, it is whimsical, surprising, and full of warmth. An old umbrella becomes not a memory of storms past, but a promise of blooms to come. Every step we take leaves a story behind. Shoes carry us across roads, fields, and seasons, holding the weight of our journeys. And when their soles wear thin and their laces fray, they need not be discarded. In the garden, they can bloom again, this time not with footsteps, but with flowers. Imagine a row of boots standing along a fence, their leather softened by years of use, now painted in cheerful shades of ruby red, sunflower yellow, or sky blue. From their open tops, bursts of chrysanthemums rise like fireworks, marigolds beam golden light, and sedum spills gently over the edges in pink clusters. Sneakers once run through puddles now cradle asters that sway with the breeze, their violet stars bright against the worn fabric. The transformation is both practical and poetic. To create your own, begin with shoes or boots no longer fit for walking. Line them with a bit of plastic or a small pot to protect against excess wear. Then fill them with soil rich enough to host life. Drill a hole or two in the sole for drainage, and suddenly, what once carried your steps now carries blossoms. There is a playful charm in these planters. Children laugh at the sight of sneakers sprouting flowers, while adults smile at the memories stirred. Shoes that once belonged to a favorite season of life, now alive in another form. Each scuff, each crease tells a story, blending past journeys with new growth. Placed along a garden path, these shoe planters feel both whimsical and grounding. Autumn leaves gather at their feet, whispering softly of change, while the flowers above sway with confidence, as if proud of their unlikely homes. Against the rustic backdrop of a fence or along the edge of garden stairs, they become not just planters but storytellers, reminding us that even the most ordinary objects can surprise us with beauty. As you pause to admire them, you realize that these shoes, once destined for the bin, have found a truer kind of journey, one that roots them in soil and fills them with color. In their quiet way, they remind us that endings are never truly endings. They are simply the start of something blooming. Time moves differently in a garden. It is not measured in hours or minutes, but in petals opening to the sun, leaves drifting slowly to the ground, and the quiet rhythm of days that turn gently into nights. Yet sometimes, a garden invites us to mark time in a more whimsical way, through a clock made not of glass and gears, but of a bicycle will reborn into something timeless. Picture an old wheel, its spokes once turning tirelessly along dusty roads. Now it leans gracefully against a fence or stands proudly among the blooms, painted in rustic shades of bronze or cream. Around its rim, numbers are hand-painted in crisp white, simple yet bold. At its center, a pair of black hands stretches outward, ready to mark the passing moments. Not with urgency, but with grace. This clock does not tick loudly, nor does it demand attention. It whispers. It reminds you that time in the garden is soft, measured not by haste but by presence. As chrysanthemums blaze in clusters of rust and gold nearby, and marigolds beam like suns, the wheel seems to harmonize with the season. Fallen leaves gather gently at its base, as though nature itself has kept count of hours in golden notes. The making of such a clock is both craft and play. Begin with an unused wheel, clean it, and paint it in colors that match your garden's mood. Add numbers around the rim with stencils or freehand, and attach clock hands, either functional with a battery-operated mechanism or simply decorative. Place it where flowers rise and vines can frame it, so that time feels woven into the life of the garden. Children are drawn to its playful design, marveling that something once meant for speed now holds stillness. Adults pause to smile, reminded that hours slip quietly by, and that every minute spent here is a gift. The clock, though simple, becomes a storyteller, marking not only the passage of time but the presence of joy. In the garden, this wheel no longer spins along the road. It spins a different tale, of renewal, of patience, of noticing the present moment. Here, time is not hurried. It blooms, quietly, beneath autumn's soft light. There is a kind of music that belongs only to the garden. You hear it in the rustle of leaves, the hum of bees, the soft chatter of birds. But sometimes, that music invites a playful companion. Drums made not of polished wood or fine skins, but of simple tin cans given a second life. In this corner of the yard, rhythm is born from what once was forgotten. Picture a row of cans, painted in cheerful shades of crimson, sunflower yellow, and pumpkin orange. Their surfaces shine in the golden light of autumn, decorated with playful patterns and brushstrokes. Arranged together in clusters, they wait like little instruments, ready to be brought alive by curious hands. Around them, chrysanthemums flare in russet tones, marigolds beam with golden fire, and asters scatter violet sparks. The garden becomes not only a place of beauty, but a stage. Children are the first to find them. Sticks in hand, they tap lightly at first, then with growing laughter, building rhythms that echo across the flowers. The sound is not polished, but it is joyful, percussion woven with bird song and the crackle of fallen leaves underfoot. Adults watch, smiles tugging at their faces, memories of childhood returning with each beat. The cans, once empty and discarded, now carry a melody of renewal. To create your own fairy drums, gather tin cans of different sizes. Clean them well and paint them in colors that delight you. Earthy tones, bright patterns, or even fairy motifs. Arrange them in the garden, either on a small wooden platform or directly on the soil. If you like, place them near a bench or pathway, inviting guests to join in. The beauty of these drums is not in perfect sound, but in the invitation to play. As the day drifts into evening, the drums gleam softly in the fading light. A gentle breeze stirs, carrying with it the memory of laughter and rhythm. The cans do not pretend to be fine instruments, yet they succeed in something far greater. They remind us that joy can be made from anything, if we are willing to see the possibility. In the end, these fairy drums are more than decoration. They are a celebration of life's simple pleasures, a reminder that even in brokenness or emptiness, there is room for music, color, color and wonder. In the quiet rhythm of a garden, light plays one of the most important roles. It filters through leaves, glimmers on petals, and softens the air with warmth. Imagine now a greenhouse wall that does not merely hold light, but transforms it. A wall made not of glass, but of rows upon rows of recycled bottles, each one catching the sun in its own way. At first glance, it feels whimsical, almost like a mosaic suspended in air. The bottles, clear and colored, are stacked carefully and tied together, their surfaces shimmering when touched by autumn's golden rays. As the sunlight passes through, the wall scatters playful reflections across the soil and surrounding flowers. A child might pause to hold out their hand, watching it glow with fragments of color as though touched by a fairy's spell. The greenhouse itself becomes more than structure, it becomes story. Ivy climbs gently along its edges, weaving green fingers into the frame. At the base, asters bloom in violet, chrysanthemums burn in russet and gold, and marigolds beam like tiny suns. Each flower seems to respond to the glow spilling from the wall, as if recognizing a new partner in beauty. Creating such a wall is a patient but simple craft. Begin with a wooden or metal frame. Collect bottles, water, soda, or juice, and wash them thoroughly. Cut off the bottoms, thread them onto rods or wires, and stack them side by side until the frame is filled. The result is a surface that captures light while allowing warmth to pass through, nurturing the tender plants inside. Over time, the bottles weather gracefully, telling their own quiet stories of reuse. What is remarkable here is not just function, but transformation. Guests stop and stare, drawn into the cascade of reflections. Adults see practicality in sheltering young plants, while children see magic, a wall that glows like a living prism. The ordinary has become extraordinary, and the garden feels all the more alive for it. As dusk falls, the last light of day lingers on the bottles, turning them into lanterns that shine softly against the deepening sky. The greenhouse, once plain and predictable, now breathes with possibility. It stands as a reminder that even the simplest relics of daily life can hold light, warmth, and hope. Here, trash does not disappear. It becomes treasure, shaping both shelter and wonder. Furniture holds memory. A chair once carried the weight of family dinners, long conversations, and moments of quiet rest. A stool once waited faithfully by the table, serving without asking for notice. And when their time as furniture has ended, they do not need to be thrown aside. In the garden, they can bloom again, this time not as places to sit, but as graceful holders of life. Picture an old wooden chair, its paint softened by years of use. The seat is gone, replaced by a pot overflowing with chrysanthemums glowing in amber and rust. A stool, painted in rustic cream, stands beside it, cradling marigolds so golden they seem to carry the sun. Ivy curls gently around the legs, while moss gathers at their base. Fallen leaves scatter across the ground, weaving everything together in autumn's warm palette. The transformation is simple, yet full of charm. To create your own, take any old chair or stool, whether wooden, metal, or wicker. Remove the seat if it is broken or cut a circular opening to fit a planter snugly. Repaint the frame in colors that reflect the season, or leave it weathered for a vintage look. Place a pot of blooming flowers inside, and suddenly, the chair is not empty. It sings again, this time in color and fragrance. These planter holders add both height and personality to the garden. They break the monotony of low flower beds, lifting blooms into view where they can be admired more closely. A cluster of them along a pathway feels almost like a gathering, chairs standing together as though in conversation, their blossoms spilling like laughter. Guests who wander by often stop to admire the playful repurposing. Children smile, imagining fairies using the chairs at night, while adults recall memories stirred by the furniture's familiar forms. The chairs and stools no longer echo with the weight of meals shared, but instead with the abundance of flowers. As evening falls, the scene grows even softer. The pastel paint glows under the fading light, the blooms seem brighter against the dusk, and the furniture turn planters become symbols of continuity. That nothing truly loses its worth, it only finds a new way to serve. Here, upcycling is not merely practical. It is poetic. The garden holds not only plants, but stories, carried quietly by chairs and stools that bloom with life once more. A garden hums with its own rhythm, the rustle of leaves, the chatter of birds, the quiet sway of flowers in the breeze. But every so often, you can add a playful note to that melody. A wind spinner, twirling joyfully in the wind, crafted not from store-bought perfection but from scraps that once seemed useless. Picture them scattered among the flower beds, small bursts of color catching the eye. Some are made from bottle caps, painted in bold reds, sunny yellows, and bright blues. Others come from old spoons or bits of metal, bent and shaped into petals that spin freely when the breeze passes by. In the autumn sunlight, their motion feels like brushstrokes across the air, fleeting, joyful, and alive. These spinners are more than decoration. They are an invitation to notice the small wonders of the garden. As marigolds glow like golden lanterns and chrysanthemums flare in russet and crimson, the spinners dance above them, echoing the season's warmth. Asters nod in violet nearby, while sedum softens the ground with pink clusters, each bloom adding its own note to the playful scene. Creating your own wind spinners is delightfully simple. Gather small scraps, caps, spoons, thin pieces of metal, or even sturdy plastic. Paint them in bright colors, drill a small hole at the center, and mount them onto a stick or rod with a nail or bolt that allows them to turn freely. Place them among your flowers, and let the breeze do the rest. They require no electricity, no fuss, only imagination. Children are the first to run toward them, their laughter rising with each spin. Adults pause as well, charmed by the whimsy, reminded of how joy often hides in overlooked things. The spinners move not with urgency but with ease, teaching us that delight can come from the gentlest winds. As evening falls, their colors soften but their presence remains. Even when still, they stand as bright little sculptures, companions to the blooms around them. In the hush of twilight, they seem to whisper a simple truth, that beauty is not always in stillness, nor in grandeur, but in playful movement born from humble beginnings. Here, scraps find a second life, not as waste, but as sparks of happiness, spinning stories in the autumn air. And so, dear friends, we come to the quiet close of our journey together today. We have wandered through paths made of fragments, lanterns born from jars, and corners where the forgotten has found its voice again. Each idea is a reminder that beauty is not distant or costly. It is near, resting patiently in the simplest objects, waiting for our hands to see them differently. In gardens, time moves softly. Leaves fall, blossoms open, and colors fade only to return again with the seasons. Our creations, too, follow this rhythm. What was once waste becomes treasure. What was once ordinary becomes a small wonder. And in these moments of renewal, we discover that creativity is not about perfection. It is about kindness towards the earth, towards what we already have, and towards ourselves. Here at TERAFLORA Studio, every story we share is an offering. A gentle nudge to look again at the things you might overlook, and to imagine how they might carry joy in new ways. Whether it is a bottle transformed into light, or a shoe blooming with flowers, each design is a piece of poetry you can write with your own hands. If this journey has inspired you, I invite you warmly and sincerely to subscribe. By joining our circle, you help us keep this dream alive. One where gardens are filled not only with blossoms, but with stories of renewal, care, and hope. Every subscription is a step we take together, reminding us that even small acts of creativity can brighten the world around us. Thank you for sharing your time, your presence, and your imagination. Until we meet again, may your days be gentle, your gardens full of wonder, and your heart always open to the beauty of transformation.